Hello, and welcome to this month's Less Stress Parenting webinar. We're really thrilled to have you here today. Today, we have Kelly Scherr with us. She is an experienced college counselor here to guide you and all of us, me too, through the ins and outs of the college process. I'm Wendy Weinberger, the president and co-founder of Aluminos Academic Coaching and Tutoring. We provide research-based executive functioning coaching for kiddos in third grade through college. We help smart kids become successful students. We offer both in-home and virtual sessions and create customized learning plan for each child. We're excited to have you with us today and for you to learn more about the college process. I can tell you, even me who's been through it 3.5 times, we're halfway through it with our senior. It's daunting, anxiety riding, and I was just before this talking to Kelly and asking her questions, even about my kiddos. And like I said, I'm about to go on my fourth one who's in 11th grade now. So navigating the process can feel pretty horrible. So Kelly is going to help us guide through the journey, and she's going to answer questions. So you can put your questions in the chat. We'll probably save them for later, but sometimes I've been on webinars and she jumps in and starts answering things along the way. Don't be shy. This is your chance. You have a great college counselor. And for those of you on the phone with students with learning differences, or any kind of challenges that are special, Kelly specializes in helping those types of kiddos get into the right schools, or if they go in whatever schools they get, to continue to get their accommodations, which is really important. She's really great at that. So anyone with learning differences or other types of challenges out there, Kelly's a great resource for you guys. So with that, I am going to hand this over to Kelly. Kelly, let me stop the share. Kelly, can you see yet?
Yeah, well, not yet. I can see you. Hello, everybody. I'm Kelly Scherr. We're going to try to switch screens on share screen. We'll see if Wendy and I can manage this without screwing it up on a Tuesday afternoon. Let's see. Are we on mine now?
Yep, you're on yours.
Yep, beautiful. Okay. Hello, everybody. How are you? So as you know, I'm Kelly Scherr. I am founder of College Way Consulting. I work with both neurotypical and neurodiverse students through the college planning process. My unique background is I came at this from an executive function or academic coaching background. I did that for many years with students all across the United States at many colleges. So I have seen the ins and outs of colleges as well from that side once the student is there. But today we are here to talk about college application requirements. So I have two children, a senior in college and a freshman in college. And so if you are anywhere near my age and have older students, you may not have used the Common App when you yourself applied to college. So it is a brand new world for those of us who apply very differently. And one thing that might be helpful is if you would put in the chat, you already have. I was just going to say, please share what grade your child is in. And also, it would be helpful to know if they are in public or private school, because it gives me a little bit of talking points as we go through. So it just gives me a sense. Thank you. Ninth grade public. Love it. Okay. So college application process. Let's see if I can manage this. But now hold on. Now I have to bring back up my Zoom. And there we go. There we go. Perfect. Okay. So here is the college application journey as defined by me. Okay. So the arrow, obviously, from left to right defines the process. Determining your college criteria. Now, for families, that can be very different. It might involve cost. It might involve major, location, size of school, experience on the college campus, a sport, a level of support at college. So it really, really depends on a unique family's perspective and what they're looking for and what their student is looking for. The ideal time to start really thinking about your specific family criteria is the summer between 10th and 11th grade, okay? Prior to that, most students are sort of not really in the headspace yet, but really sitting down with your students and having a conversation, and an honest conversation about the things that are priorities to you as parents, as well as to your child. I'll often have students in the priority meetings that I do as part of my comprehensive college planning when I'm working with a client. You know, the student will say dining off-campus dining, hugely important to me. It's important for that student to be heard. It's important for everybody to be on the same page in the household with an agreed upon list of college criteria. Then the next step is researching colleges. Now, many students will ask me and families will ask, how soon should I start visiting colleges? Two answers to that. For specific colleges where your student is truly engaged in the process, you're doing an on-campus tour, an on-campus information session, you're looking at dorms and what it might be like to live there, specific majors, 11th grade, give or take. Prior to that, I call them the Goldilocks tours. It is great as you travel through the country, or if you go on vacation, or if you're on your way to see the grandparents and you can stop by a couple of schools along the way. The Goldilocks tours are designed to do exactly what you might imagine, just to give students a sense of what different colleges look like and feel like. You might go to a small liberal arts college on your way, or a large public university, or a smaller public that's in the city with no green space, or a public or a private that's in a city with green space that has a central core to their campus. So those kinds of Goldilocks tours can be done. 10th grade is great, and even early in 11th grade. Then standardized tests. So if you have juniors, I'm sure this is all you are thinking about right now, but the junior year is the time to deal with standardized testing, either ACT or SAT. Both are considered equal to the colleges, does not really matter, should be decided by you and your student based on which one they feel more comfortable with. Prior to the junior year, one way to help make that decision as to which tests you're going to take might be to do some mock testing over the summer before 11th grade to kind of help you figure that out. But ideally, you're taking standardized tests during junior year. Plan to sit for maybe 2 different test administrations and schedule those testing dates around other activities. If your student is in the winter musical that starts in November, please do not sign up for the November test, because we all know Tech Week is in October and all those final rehearsals come in October, and there's absolutely no time to study or prepare for the test. If your student is a spring track person, then maybe take that test in February because you've had some time to study over the winter. Hopefully they're just participating in winter running or winter track and it's not as significant amount of a time commitment. And then that's a good time to take it. And then generally speaking, they can be taken as late as May, June. And usually some seniors can squeak in a test in September, maybe even in October, early-ish, depending on how they're applying and when they're applying, but ideally junior year. Develop a balanced list is the next step. Now, going back to the college criteria, that balance is really specific to each student and family. A balanced list for one family might look completely different than for somebody else. You all have probably heard of the standard reach, target, likely. That's all based on academics. This point in the college process, I'm not sure there are many likelies left because of how the application seasons have been going. But they may also have a balanced list based on major. Maybe you are a computer science major, and sometimes computer science is housed in the engineering school. Sometimes it's in a college of science of some sort that's not in the engineering school. So that's a different type of program, and you might have different options of how and where those majors are housed, and that's a balanced list. Some balanced lists for an athlete may be places where there are club sports versus D1, D2, or D3, type activities. A balanced list might be a range of support services, some available on campus, some available off campus. So in addition to what you probably hear is your standard reach, target, likely, those priorities as well that come from that criteria conversation really factor into the balance list. And then today we're going to focus on all of the application requirements so that all of you who have not yet done this get a sense of what's coming, and always past submitting your application to very important steps. Once you apply to colleges, your student will have access to their applicant portal at each school, unique to that student, a different one for every single school they apply to. That becomes the main way that your student is communicating with the college between the time they apply and the time that they find out what their decision is, whether it's accepted, rejected, deferred, waitlisted. All of those are possibilities. And that information and any other materials that that college would like from that student is all communicated in the applicant portal. And then finally, except for 2 years ago because the FAFSA was delayed, acceptances are due typically by May the 1st. And what that means is you have made a decision where your student is going to attend college, you have filled out the paperwork and made an enrollment deposit. All right. So here are all the pieces we're going to talk about today. This is what's required to complete an application. So recommendation letters from both teachers and counselors, official transcripts, activities lists or a resume, a personal statement of some sort, whether that is in the Common App, which is one type of application, could be a UC, which is the University of California system, has different personal statement questions. Other applications that exist are there's a Texas, Apply Texas app, there's a Cal State app. So there are some of the bigger groups of schools, state schools will sometimes have a different application process that you can't use for the Common App, can't access through the Common App. The Common application is exactly what it sounds like. The common portion of the application that goes to each school. The Common application is available for a little over 1,000 schools throughout the country now. And none of the California state schools, the Cal Polys, the Texas schools, sometimes they'll double up, but the Common App is the most widely used. Again, a little over 1,000, and a few more join it every year. Within that Common application, there's a main section, which is data, which we'll look at. And then there's college-specific sections within the Common App, some data, some specific information for the college. If you are submitting SAT or ACT scores, those have to get to the college, and sometimes supplements required by the college. Sometimes it's essays, sometimes it's a portfolio, sometimes it's additional information. But additional essays or a portfolio of some type are the general categories. But that's what it takes to get everything done. All right, so recommendation letters and official transcripts. This is an interaction between the student and their high school. The recommendation letters are one place where non-data, personal information that may give admissions officers some insight as to who that student is could come through a teacher rec letter or a counselor rec letter, depending on their relationship with those people. The letters of recommendation are generally requested by the student, usually following spring break of junior year, depending on where your high school fits into that process. And this is why I asked about public or private. At public schools, at large public schools, you will want to ask your teacher in person. You may have to add your name to a list in the classroom, and they're going to then decide how many they're going to write. You're going to want to send an email to follow up on that request. Or you might find out from the teacher that they have a questionnaire they want you to fill out. So there are a variety of different ways. The public schools, as we all know, especially in our area here in the DMV, can have, 600 students per class. Teachers in high school are not paid to do this. This is something they do and they're happy to do, but it is additional work. So some teachers may limit the number of applications or the number of recommendation letters that they are willing to write, usually over the summer. Now, the counselor of letter of recommendation comes from the counselor at the high school, both public and private. And usually what is required from the student and the family to get that letter drafted is there's often a counselor info sheet that the student fills out and that the parent fills out. Typically, that is due in a public school May, June of junior year. Toward the end of junior year, be on the lookout for that information. There will be something that you, as a parent and student, will likely submit to your counselor. This is the time that you should brag. If you want to brag about your students, do not let your students tell you, no, 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 mom or dad, that's too much information. Don't share that. Please brag. Your counselors will decide what they're going to use, but this is your opportunity to brag about your student. You never know what they're going to lift from it and write. The more information you provide, you won't see it, won't necessarily go in, but the better. And then finally, to wrap up sort of how rec letters and official transcripts are sent, step 3, in senior year, once these things are done, the rec letters are usually done over the summer, early fall, then there's an interaction between the student and the high school to get them sent to the colleges to which the student is applying. That happens many times through a back-end system. Many of the schools around here use Naviance. You may have heard that, or you will. Score is another one. Maya Learning is a third. And sometimes it's paper and pencil, submitting stuff to your counselor. Occasionally it's a Google form. So different ways, but there is a step in the beginning of senior year to complete that part of the process. If your student is asked to submit an email to the teacher, or the teacher does not have a rec letter questionnaire that they ask to be filled out, please have your student write a letter to that teacher, write an email, thanking them for being willing to write, and give them a little personal detail about themselves. Again, the more the student provides within reason, the stronger the rec letter may be for the students. All right, the next thing on our list is an activities list and resume. So as part of the main section of the Common App, which we'll look at, students get to select the 10 most meaningful activities that they've done during high school. Once you, quote unquote, graduate 8th grade, summers count all through high school. The summer before 9th grade is 9th grade. So each time you graduate a grade, that's the year we consider it in. Activities could include in and out of school extracurriculars, which you might think of, definitely athletics, a job, a hobby that you actively participate in. I've noted independent learning, coding, guitar. Maybe you're an artist and you are constantly working with pastels and charcoals and paints and different things. Those all count. Those are things that you're spending your time doing. And what colleges are really trying to get from you here is, outside of the academic day, how does the student spend their time? What are they doing? So this is another place where the activities list and resume, where students get to share a little bit of insight as to who they are as a person. Okay, just a little bit. There's more coming where they get to say who they are as a person, but a little bit here, because you have an activities description that you'll fill out, and you'll get to communicate, you know, how did this activity help you? How did it help others? What did you learn? I'll show you what this looks like on Common Application. So this is a section of the Common Application, and it is the activities section. The top of this activity section gives you a place to select activity type. They are predetermined by the Common App. They might be JV athletics, art, academic, communications, computer. There's, I don't know, 15 or 17 different activity types. You get 50 characters to talk about your position or leadership description, if you have one, within the organization. You get 100 characters to list the organization name and or a brief couple word description of what that is, if it's not self-explanatory. And then here's where you get the description at the bottom of the page. You get 150 characters to describe the activity. So you want to use those characters efficiently. You want to be able to communicate something about your student. Your student should write not just the description of the activity, but something about why it was meaningful to them. What did they get out of that? And then the second half of the activity sheet asks, what grade level did you compete? Or, sorry, what grade level did you participate in this activity? Was it during the school year, during a school break, or all year? About how many hours on average did you spend per week and how many weeks per year? Now, timing for this. I always suggest when I'm working with my clients, it's a task that I assign to families and students first, but this is a great way for mom or dad to participate because kids forget all the time about the things that they've been doing. So I assign this over winter break. Get through winter break of junior year. Great pastime activity over winter break. I'm sure students don't love doing it then, but it's before we get into the heavy lifting of junior year, second semester, and more of the recommendation letters and things like that. Here is a sample student resume. Resumes can be done for colleges. It is completely fine and will often include the stuff from the activities list. Now, most students that create resumes for themselves will do it when they have particular skill sets that they want to highlight, or they have way more than 10 activities, which some students do, or some of their activities are really, really interesting. There was research involved. There were presentations. That 150 characters just simply is not enough. And then you can create a resume. What you do not want to do is literally just take your 10 activities, put them on a resume and submit them, because now admissions counselors have to open that piece of paper twice, okay? And we want your admissions review. Admissions counselors spend between 3 and 7 minutes reviewing your student's entire application. So we don't want to repeat information. We do not have to. All right, now I mentioned before, there are a few places where the student gets to really shine and tell admissions something about them personally. Who is your student? What makes them them? Characteristics, traits, values, identity, things that are important to them beyond GPA, the classes they take. Who are they as a person? So the Common Application has a series of 7 questions. You only have to choose one, thankfully. And it has a 650 word maximum limit, which is, double spaced, page and a half or so. And again, this is the opportunity for the student to shine, to share characteristics and traits about who they are. As an admissions counselor, if I was to read an essay of somebody I did not know, I should be able to walk away saying, I should be able to say, that's Tommy. Tommy showed perseverance through this. Tommy is a giving student who values belonging to community organizations. They're going to make a couple of notes in the application review about what they learned high level about your student. So this is not an academic piece of writing. This is a personal narrative piece of writing. And many students are not taught that in the high school environment. So it can be a little bit challenging. And, we can talk maybe in another session about how to approach those. So for example, question 5, pretty standard. Discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of personal growth and a new understanding of yourself and others. So this isn't about just discussing the accomplishment. The real crux of this question, sparking a period of personal growth and a new understanding. These questions are all going to be reflective questions. They want your student to think about who they are. And then, of course, if your student is really having trouble finding topics that fit with the first 6, the 7th question, share an essay on any topic of your choice. So again, showing something, characteristic, personality traits, something about your student. Now, because the UC's, University of California system, is usually the next most used application. I wanted to address those questions as well. And the way the UCs do it is they have a list of 8, and a student gets to choose 4. Now, these questions, if I remember correctly, top out at 350 words. So not quite 650, but 350 times 4. And this really gives the student a nice variety to think about. Number 6, think about an academic subject that inspires you. How have you furthered this interest inside and or outside of the classroom? Number 3, what would you say is your greatest talent or skill? How have you developed and demonstrated that talent over time? If your child is going to be applying to schools on the West Coast through the UC app and schools through the Common App, I encourage you to write the UCs. They're called the PIQs, personal interest questions, UC PIQs. I encourage you to write these first. Often, one of these is the jump off point for the Common App personal statement, and or these can be used for what we'll talk about in a moment, the supplemental essay questions that individual colleges may ask. And then the student already has a lot of content to use. All right. Here is the main middle tab of the Common Application. So again, my generation, we did not have this. I graduated high school in 1990, and my mom, if I remember correctly, typed my college application sitting at our dining room table while I headed off to swim practice. So very, very different than when I applied. You go to commonapp.org. That is the website where your students will use to start their Common Application. Timing wise, oh, actually, let me go back. I apologize. Timing wise on those UCPIQs, the personal statements, or the Common App personal statements, I usually recommend that students complete those during the summer before senior year. So if your student has APs, wait till after the AP exams are over. But again, start thinking about AP or exams. Private schools will still have some exams. Once those things are done, that June, July timeframe into August is a really good time to knock out that personal statement. Students will feel a big sense of relief heading into August, knowing that that piece of this jigsaw puzzle that is the application is completed. I was just checking my time. So here's the Common App. It has 5 sections, dashboard and colleges, just a listing of the colleges you're applying to. But this middle section of the Common App is where most of the data goes. So there is a profile section, which is really just all about your student, the data, where they were born, how old they are, how many years they've lived in the state in which you currently live. A family section, same kinds of information. But this section, great section to do together with your student because it wants to know what your maiden name was, what your phone number and email are. You'd be surprised at the number of students who are like, I have no idea what my dad's phone number is because it's just programmed into my phone. It also asks which college you went to, when you graduated, and what your degrees were. Now, if you're anything like my kids, maybe they have some idea, but they certainly don't know what year it is and or what major I graduated. That's in the family section. Education section, again, mostly data about where the student is currently in high school. So their current high school, if they switched high schools partway through, that's the place that goes. You'll enter information about their grades and GPA, the courses they're taking senior year. Again, a data section. Testing is the section where you report your standardized test scores if you have them. The activities section, just like we discussed, those top 10 most meaningful activities in that same form that we looked at will go there. The writing section is your personal statement that you wrote for one of those 7 Common App questions in the prompt, and they'll go in there. And then the final section is courses and grades. So some schools, in addition to wanting a transcript, will ask families to put all of the courses and the associated grades that your student has taken during high school or during middle school that will also appear on your high school transcript. So if your student took Algebra 1 in 8th grade, it may very well appear on the high school transcript, and therefore it has to get entered here. So courses and grades, more data. This I have my students start June, July. The Common App becomes live. It rolls over on August the 1st, right before senior year. All of the information in the profile and the family section is saved. Nothing is lost there. So you can enter a good amount of the data. It'll roll over on August the 1st. You should double check it just to make sure that it all rolled over correctly. But then a lot of the data entry has been done. And then after August 1st, I recommend families don't log on August 1st. There's always a glitch, maybe the 3rd or the 4th. Then you can start making sure everything's in there correctly and seeing what information you still need to submit. Now in the My Colleges tab, you will add the schools that you intend to apply to through the Common App in this My Colleges tab. And in the college-specific sections in My Colleges, if you look down under the University of Maryland, it'll give you some deadlines that are there. But on the left-hand side, there are questions, recommenders and FERPA, and review and submit the Common App. So now for each individual college, there is this questions section that is mostly data, when the student wants to apply, what year they're going to start, the type of application decision, early action, regular decision, as well as the majors or the colleges within the university that they want to apply to. Recommenders and FERPA is that connection between the student's Common App and their high school, most often supported by the high school or private school counselors. And then when you're finally ready to submit, you can walk through the review and submit functions. So 2 parts to the Common App: the Common App middle section, aptly named the common portion of the Common App, and then the college-specific section, which is under My Colleges. So in the college-specific sections, there may be a supplemental essay, which I mentioned earlier. This is another place where your student gets to really shine and show who they are. These are specific questions where the student gets to say, why specifically do I want to go to Wake Forest? Why is that important to me? Again, if you've done the UCPIQs, personal interest questions, you might have some content to use. Supplemental essay topics typically fall into these categories. An activities essay, where it asks the student to write about a meaningful activity to them. It might be, why do you want to major in your major? What have you done in high school that sort of prompted that thinking? Or what haven't you had the opportunity to do that you'd like to explore in college? Community essay. What communities are you a part of? And how have those communities influenced your thinking and who you are? Diversity. When have you experienced diversity issues? This happens, diversity across all kinds of things, not just race, gender. And so that's a very personal kind of answer per student. Identity, what makes you who you are? You know, how did I become Kelly Scherr? You know, what is my background? And then sometimes there's a specific college question that's just for fun, like University of Vermont says, if you were a Ben and Jerry's flavor, what would you be and why? So there you go. Now, to get help filling out the Common Application, this, you can take a screenshot of it. I'm sure we can send it to you afterwards. The AXS Companion, that's how you say that, ask why, but the AXS Companion was created by IECA and Oregon State University. I'm a professional member of IECA. When you go on there, several of my colleagues and friends will be part of the videos, but the videos walk you through how to complete all of the sections of the Common App, from creating the account through those sections we discussed, all the way to submitting applications. What's really nice about this is it doesn't retain any student personal information. So it is just a free resource. However, it also doesn't retain any of your work product because you're doing that all in the Common App. So if you go back into AXS Companion and you want to review the section on testing, it's not going to have saved anything that you did or didn't do in the family or education section. But phenomenal free resource. Tell your friends, definitely something that's very helpful for families. Sending official SAT and ACT scores. That was kind of towards the bottom of our application list. Here's the SAT page, sending your scores to each college that you are submitting to. The ACT has their own page. You may be sending super scores. You may be sending individual scores, something to talk about with your counselors at school. And finally, how do we get all the parts to the college? So top left, giant blue box. Family and student responsibilities. You send these to the college. The common application, the common part, and the college-specific section. The application fee, most students will have an application fee per college of somewhere between $30 and $75. Sometimes there's a fee waiver, which you'll get if you've visited, you'll receive emails, and official SAT and ACT scores. That is a student responsibility. Then the student sends that to the college. Sometimes those supplemental materials might come out in that applicant portal I discussed way back on slide 1. And that ends up with a completed application. Bottom chunk, big blue box. The student has to initiate at their high school the teacher rec letters by asking the teachers, filling out the questionnaire, giving them personal information. The counselor rec letters, we talked about that in June. Parents submitting information, students submitting information, and official transcripts. High school counselors don't know what colleges you're applying to and what deadlines you're using until you tell them. Then the green box is high school counseling, then will send the student's official transcript as of the end of 11th grade, the recommendation letters, both teacher and counselor, and something called the school profile that goes to all colleges. It's not specific to your student, but specific to your school. Once all of that is there, then the college has a completed application and can review your materials. So I know that was a lot of information, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Hopefully that doesn't overwhelm you too much, but again, use that AXS Companion, use it. Hopefully now you just have a sense of the different pieces and parts that your student is going to be asked to work through, kind of starting spring of junior year. All right, Wendy, I'll stop sharing and take a drink.
Oh, no, you could have left that up. I was going to say to reach Kelly because I don't have a email or anything for you. Why don't you put that back up, or I can.
Sure.
Actually, I'll put it up.
I can do it. Here. It's right here. I'm good. There you go.
So Kelly, if you want to reach her, either to have a free consult to talk about your student or go ahead and engage her to help you through this incredible process, you can reach her by calling this number, 202-247-5330, or you can reach out at kelly@collegewayconsulting.com. If you are, looks like most of our folks are definitely in high school, and a lot of them are in 11th grade. You're right about the right time. If you want to start asking questions early, 9th grade is always a great time to start as well. Kelly, in the chat, I have posted some of the questions I've received, and there's some more coming in right now. So I'll let you, do you want me to read them to you?
You guys are welcome to leave your screens off, completely fine. If you want, Wendy will feed you some questions. If you have a follow-up, raise your hand or something, and then Wendy will know there's a follow-up part too. Go for it.
Yeah, it's always better to see you guys on screen if you can join it all. So with that, Kelly, the first question is, what if I don't know what to ask to determine my child's college criteria? Is there a list of questions or a place to look to figure out those things?
So with my clients, I have a list, obviously. I don't know that there's a specific list, but the things that are on my list for parents, again, it kind of comes out through the process, but cost, definitely be honest with them about cost. Environment, rah, school spirit, no school spirit, what kind of person are they? Do they want to be walking around where everybody has the sweatshirt of the school on and there's big football, or is that overwhelming? Major, kind of academics they're interested in, location, and that could be big geography, Northeast, Southwest, all kinds of things there, especially with what's going on politically in the world right now. Everybody's got their own take on that, but also big city, small city. Do you want access to public transportation, dining, housing? Housing is something that always, I think, never gets quite covered enough, and I'll explain. First year, sometimes second year, you may be required to live on campus. Sometimes it's really just that first year. And then the actual second, third, and fourth years are spent living off campus. So 3/4 of your education is living off campus. So you might want to consider what off-campus housing looks like in the areas. For example, if you want to go to University of Washington, you are going to live in Seattle. That is going to be very expensive. If you want to go to the University of Miami, you are going to live in Miami. That is going to be very expensive. So, and some schools provide housing for all 4 years in their cities. I think Hofstra, for example, does that. So a list of criteria, pretty much anything you can, intramurals, club sports, etc.
Okay. What is the CSS?
Ah, the CSS profile. So somebody knows something. Did I even say that on my thing? So FAFSA and CSS profile. So there are two different kinds of aid that are available for students. There is need-based aid, this bucket, which comes out of the financial aid offices at universities. To give that financial aid offices the information they need to determine need, you may have to fill out the FAFSA and the CSS profile. The CSS profile lives in the College Board, same place where your kids go to register for the SAT test. You can look it up there. There's a list of schools, and it is more detailed, specific information than is asked or requested on the FAFSA. The second bucket of money that students might get to help with college expenses is merit aid. That comes out of the admissions office. And most often, the FAFSA and CSS profile are not needed to make those decisions. Most often.
Okay. So let's see here. What is good criteria for a target school?
Again, it depends on your criteria. It depends on your criteria. So most colleges now will have statistics that you can look at that will share the average GPA from high school of the incoming freshman. Average test scores, they will give the middle 50th percentile. So that is 25th to 75th percentile of the students that enrolled at that school. And then there's something about rigor. Those are kind of the three factors that go into that academic comparable piece. So GPA, rigor, which is a bit of a search and find. Nobody's going to say, hey, these classes, but think about it as a number of advanced or honors or AP classes that your child has taken, and then their SAT or ACT scores. And those things together can give you an academic criteria to compare. And a good target school, your students will be in that mix. They will be admissible to that school. The final decision of whether or not they're admissible then depends on all of those other factors and who else is applying. Going to college, applying to college is self-selecting, right? It's based on the number of students that apply and who's coming into that pool.
Okay, thank you for that, Kelly. Should students reach out to their local college representative, since that may be who's reviewing the application? And if so, what should the child say?
Yes. Yes, they should. So often those local reps will visit area high schools. So they should definitely sign up for those. Some schools have policies that only seniors can go. Some juniors and seniors can go. Those admissions counselors that are visiting those high schools, you'll sign up on the form in your counseling offices. They are tracking who's attending. Now, in the case like I happen to be in the Churchill School District, when Maryland comes to Churchill, there's 350 people in the auditorium, great, doesn't really matter. But for most other schools, you might go 20 or 30 students. You want to reach out to them, ideally in a school setting that's low stress for the student. you want to reach out and ask a question that is not readily available on the website. If you can answer your question within 4 or 5 clicks through, it is not deep enough to ask the admissions counselor that question. If you have a question following a visit, that's phenomenal, because then you get to email the admissions counselor and say, hey, I have a follow-up question from my visit that I attended last week when I was on your campus, and here's my question. So, it almost, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it almost doesn't matter as long as it's an intelligent question that's not easily answerable by a little bit of research. The last thing you want to do is ask an admissions counselor something that the student can find in 10 seconds on the website. That's not a good look.
Thanks, Kelly. I'm going to actually ask a question off of that. Is it really important to visit a school before you apply? Or for those people, a lot of families right now have a lot of kids going to, applying to 12 schools, 14 schools, and they don't want to go really until after they see where the kids got in. So what is the impact on the application process if they wait?
Yeah. So it is fine, actually, in most instances. So some schools will track what we call demonstrated interest. Some will not. Big, large public schools do not track demonstrated interest for the most part. They just simply do not have time with 75,000 applicants. Right? Now, it's important, we talked about those Goldilocks tours and some tours, that your student starts to get a sense of what it is they like about the campuses, how they feel. Do they like small, medium, large campuses? Dorm sizes, class sizes is a big deal. So they should visit enough schools where they can start to get a sense of what they like. And now, actually, since COVID, one benefit that came out of that is almost every institution of reasonable size has virtual tours and virtual information sessions that are now available to the student from the website. So if you visited even just a few schools, now your student has in their mind's eye something to compare it to when they see these virtual tours. So not every student will have visited every college that they're applying to ahead of time. You can definitely go after, and as a matter of fact, then in the spring, there are admitted students days. So if you really have to limit the number of visits you're going to be able to do, go to those admitted students days. You can show demonstrated interest to those schools that track it by opening emails, getting on their social media, going through the website, registering, telling them you exist. Like you go into the admissions and you say, do you want to follow us? You say, yes, I'd like information. You've put in your email. So there are other ways to engage besides just being on campus.
That's so helpful. Thank you. What are the colleges looking for today? What's the most important? What's the least important? It used to be that, you had to be jack of all trades, master of none. And now my own personal opinion, you just need to be master of everything. But nonetheless, I'll let
kind of, yeah.
Yeah,
kind of. It depends on the school. The highly rejectives, as I like to call them, some people would refer to them as highly selectives. I think if we look at it as highly rejectives, it gives people perspective. They get to choose from among all these super, super intelligent kids that are applying, the truly interesting and exceptional students, right? And that comes out in all of those, what we call the X factor, and that's different for everybody. There's not a specific thing. GPA, rigor, and test scores, if they're good, still kind of is that first step. Is this student admissible? Can they compete, collaborate with their peers across the courses that they're looking for? Then they go to the softer skills. And it's not specifically an activity, but it's, have they been a leader in anything? Or if they haven't been a leader, how are they spending their time? I mean, I had a student who had to go and help their grandparents out every day after school, Monday through Friday for 2 hours. You can bet that was on their activities list. And one of our supplemental essays, student got into plenty of places. Colleges understand lots of things. So I always tell my juniors that I'm working with, do not worry about college too much here until the spring, because the best thing you can do for your college applications is your grades, GPA during that junior year.
And on that, how many schools should a child apply to?
depends on who you ask. Most college counselors from years, admissions counselors, pre-COVID would say 3 reach, 3 target, 3 likely. Again, but as I described, that definition of reach target likely has changed. And by the way, that might not be priorities. It might be based on major and different majors. I always like to say minimum of 8. Most of my students are kind of in that 10 to 13 range is kind of where we end up. If you're applying to 20 schools, you probably haven't done enough research to eliminate some. There should not be a school on your list that you would not be happy to attend.
Perfect. Are there any websites or books that can help my child understand how colleges are different or the same? Like, are there anything they can look at?
Yes, lots and lots of it. I should have come prepared with a list of stuff that I use. Lots and lots of different things. Definitely going to the national, I can think is iPads, and that's right. The National Clearinghouse, the education, what is that, NCES? Anyway, yeah, like national education, whatever. Lots of things online. Honestly, Google search, plenty of private sites that if you type in something like, I'd like to compare Wake Forest to Elon, you're going to come up with a bunch of sites that are sometimes groups of people like me that have worked together to put things together to start to compare. So a good Google search will turn up. College Vine is one, a number, tons and tons of them that have comparison sites. You can even use things like Niche. You just need to remember what the source of the statistic is. It's like the first person account versus the second person account in history, right? The people that put things online that are like sort of self-ratings, they either love the school or they hate the school and they publish. Nobody ever puts in the middle. And I like to use this example, which, hopefully this does not offend anybody, but the University of Vermont, if you look through some of their statistics and reviews, you will learn that at the end of every semester, there's a naked bike ride, right? That's from the person who loves Vermont. You will also learn, if you read through it, at the end of every semester, these people do a naked bike ride. I hate it here, right? So what have we learned? We've learned that there's a naked bike ride at the end of the semester. Okay.
I have 2 siblings that went there, so I'm well versed in that.
Right, exactly.
So I want to just, as we start to get to the end, I did want to share with everybody how you can reach us. I'm not sure that we're the topic today, and that's fine. That's why we bring people like Kelly here. There is a QR code if you want to scan it to schedule a time to talk to me about how we can support your child. And then Kelly did mention about test prep. That is so important. And if I can get my screen to work, our next Less Stress Parenting webinar is on the new ACT that's coming out. And we work closely, like we do with Kelly, we work very closely with Top Score Education, who we find are pretty much the best folks out there to help your child prep for these tests. They customize and they come into your home and work with your child in home, in a library, or virtually. And they're fantastic. They really customize for each child, and you can get those scores that Kelly was saying you really need to get. If you're interested in following up with Alex, who owns the company, or with the company Top Score in general, let me know. In the meantime, you can already sign up for our next Less Stress Parenting webinar on November 12th using the QR and the code. Kelly, since I don't have a direct QR code for you because you want people to call, why don't you review again what your I don't think let's see. Oh, I have it. There we go. And there's Kelly's information again at the end, so that you guys can all have that. Take a screenshot so you can keep that too.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Kelly so much for being here. I think you provided absolutely exceptional advice that's hard to find. And I hope everyone will use this information. And again, remember, it's going to be recorded. It's going to be on our website. When you go to open up that Common App and go, do I write that my child is bilingual, or do I write that my child, what do I put here? Come back. This is a great way to get those answers. You can also reach out to Kelly anytime. And we thank you for your time. We really appreciate it. We know you have little time to give and are grateful that you came and gave us your time today. So thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next time, and have a wonderful day. Thanks, Kelly.